I recently launched a Patreon page, and one of the reward tiers is a monthly reflection about the content that I made for that month. To give an idea of what that would be like, I'll be going through all of the videos on this channel prior to the start of May, and expressing my thoughts on each one. I wanted to make an update video like this once I got out of college anyway, so I figure I'll go all out with it. If you want the bare bones version, these are my 3 favorites, these are my least favorites. I already talked about the top 5 AMVs video in this video, so I'm skipping both of those. My anime journey isn't an analysis, so I'm skipping that. SAO is Money is an avant-garde review containing no content. And if there's no content, I can't analyze it, so I'm skipping that. Everything beyond this is unscripted, so I apologize in advance if this video runs a bit long. My Hero Academia is Badass is, well, I was originally going to say not one of my worst works, but as far as anime analysis goes, it's pretty bad. Most of it is just summary. Like, the majority of the video is just me summarizing the events. Like, the whole point of it was supposed to be, well, all this happens and that makes the show badass, but it didn't really connect it to anything. Like, there was a point in there where I tied it into Hunter x Hunter, which I thought was cool. I like that part. I talked about the broken finger, how that connected to me. But I think those were really the only 2 points in that video that actually had any real substance behind them. The majority of it is just me recapping the events of My Hero Academia. And I add a few little tidbits here and there, but for the most part, it is just summary. It was my first real, like the top 5 AMVs video was technically my first anime project, but because that was a top 5 format, so I found it easier to write. This one was my first real script where I took a point and the goal was to defend that point and address why I thought that title. And I didn't really do that. I just kind of summarized My Hero Academia, so you could have just called it My Hero Academia Recap, and that might have been a more accurate title. I do sort of tie it all back in the end when I talk about the broken finger and how that connects to me and how I thought it was incredibly badass, but it isn't exactly analysis. Is it one of the worst I've ever done? I guess it depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for analysis, then yeah, it's probably one of the worst. As far as things being written goes, I don't know if it's something that I hate more than some of the other videos that I made. One problem you can see in a lot of my older videos is that my pronunciation of the names of characters or shows was pretty inconsistent. Like, in that video, I pronounced Killua 2 different ways. Like, I said Gon and, I was addressing Gon and Killua, and then at another point, I was like Kirua, trying to pronounce it more as like the Japanese way of saying it. And that was a problem I had in a lot of my other videos when I first started out. Like Naruto, I was trying to be all proper, so I'd say Naruto, and there were some names that I just couldn't do that with. Like, even in the Naruto is terrible yet fascinating video, I guess that's as good of a transition as any. In that video, there's stuff like I'm talking about Naruto and Jiraiya, but then we get to like Madara and Hashirama, and I'm just like, no, I'm not even gonna try it. I can't say it. So eventually I figured out, just pronounce it how I would pronounce it. There are certain names like Kurapika from Hunter x Hunter. If I say Kurapika, that doesn't sound right to me, just because I'm used to hearing all the other characters saying it as Kurapika. It's different, like, if I watch a show dubbed, I'm more likely, like with Simon from Gurren Lagann, I say Simon because that's what the dub used. In Japanese dub, it's Shimon, I believe. Which, I mean, it's basically the same thing, but pronunciation it's a weird thing. I would say that it doesn't matter, but if I could at least find something consistent for me, which I eventually got to. Like, I recently did a video about Ski ga Kire, and like in that, I'm not gonna say Ski ga Kire, because I don't know, it just doesn't, it's weird what sounds right in my head and what doesn't, and the way I pronounce things sometimes might throw people off, but at least now I try to have some sort of consistency with, well, I know I'm gonna say something as something, and not as something else. But back then, I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, well, let's try to pronounce all this stuff the proper way. And if I just couldn't do it, I wouldn't say that one word, but I'd say everything else the other way. So in a situation like where I'm trying to say Naruto, it just gets weird. The Naruto is terrible yet fascinating video. This is, a lot of my early work has this problem. It's okay to like bad anime, I feel like has this a bit as well. And the same with the Guilty Pleasures video, where it's just dropping points and maybe giving them a little bit of analysis, a little bit of evaluation, but not really digging deep into it. And I also realized that in these older videos, I came off, like, I don't know if it's just the way that I pronounce things, because I try to speak, you know, to put power behind my voice when I do these narrations, but the way that I talked in, like, the It's Okay to Like Bad Anime and Naruto is Terrible Yet Fascinating videos, the way that I talk in it sounds really, like, really arrogant, like, just the way that I come off. It doesn't, listening back to it, I'm like, is this really me? Is that how I talked? In both the way that I speak and in the way that I was writing. Because when I first started doing this anime analysis stuff, I made the mistake of trying to like portray this persona that I am not. I got into the medium in 2014, was when I started watching anime. I talked about everything regarding my anime journey in that titled video. In these earlier videos, I feel like I tried to come off as a guy who had seen a bunch of shows, like, who had more experience with the medium. So in a situation where, like, Naruto is terrible, I'm talking about all this stuff about quality, and it gets even worse in the bad anime video, where I'm trying to, like, define these sort of kind of objective terms. I wasn't really going for objectivity, because I don't think objective quality is, I really think, like, your interpretation of any piece of literature, whether it's like writing or if it's TV, anime, you know, that sort of thing, it all comes down to, like, subjective experiences. And yeah, there are certain qualities, like the writing of a show, the directing, which you can judge in terms of quality, but what one person sees is, you know, because you have, like, conventional means of doing things and you have unconventional things. So does that mean that the unconventional methods are of less quality? It does come down to, you know, what does the viewer sort of interpret, I think. So with me, I have less experience in anime than most people do, who I guess would be in this community. You know, you have a guy like Digibro who has seen so many different shows. There are just a lot of people. Pedantic Romantic has seen more than I have. Crafts Dwarf has seen more than I have. I don't think me only having been in the anime community, having started watching anime in 2014 and having a limited view of different shows, I don't think that means that I can't say anything critically about them, because I can think critically. If I see something that I like and I can talk about why I like it, I don't feel as though my lack of experience as far as the medium goes should prevent me from expressing my opinions. However, when I try to make a claim where, like, I'm like, well, Naruto does all of this stuff that's wrong, but if I don't give examples, or especially like in the It's Okay to Like Bad Anime video, where I talk about, you know, like, Erased is a bad show, and not really defend that point, and it's not like I'm a veteran in watching anime. Like, I'm still sort of new to this. I've only been watching anime for like 3 years now. So when I'm trying to make a claim that has a more broad application, it doesn't hold water when, you know, it's like, well, who the hell is this guy to say this? So more recently, I've tried to change the way that I write and the way that I talk to be more, I'm just a guy with an opinion. If I have something to say about something, then I'll say it. And I feel like this really reflects in not only my writing, but it seemed to reflect in how I talk as well. Just because, like, in these early videos, especially, I just listened back to both the Naruto and the It's Okay to Like Bad Anime videos, and I find myself cringing at the way in which I deliver some lines. It's not that, like, my speaking is bad, but the tone that I use to deliver them sounds really narcissistic in a way. Like, I listen back to it and I wonder, how can I say something like that with how can I assert a point like that with such definitiveness when I don't really have the experience to kind of back that up. Like, especially when I'm making claims about, like, I was trying to argue, I guess, sort of like a quality versus enjoyment in that video, and in a way, now that I think about it, that sounds more like Digibro's appreciation versus enjoyment. And I guess it does kind of show, when I was first starting out, who I was trying to emulate, who I was trying to take inspiration from, and develop. Like, I hadn't found my own style. Like, first starting out, I would look at all these other videos that people have made and try to figure out, okay, well, I'll take, you know, what good points do they use, and what should I try not to do, and try to throw that all together and make my own little dish, my own little meal of a video. And for the most part, it was less me and more me thinking that I could, you know, I guess taking what I wanted to take from my inspirations and trying to use them to mold them into my own style, but my own style hadn't really shined through yet. In the Naruto video, I'm already jumping back and forth between these two things. This is what happens when I go off script. But in the Naruto video specifically, there are a lot of claims that I make in that video that are really negative against Naruto, and I get the feeling that that video doesn't even really describe my proper opinion towards the show. Because the title is Naruto is terrible, yet fascinating, which was supposed to be my way of saying, this is bad, but I also enjoy it a lot. But fascinating, I guess, isn't the proper way to do it. The reason why I chose fascinating to put in the title was because I thought it was interesting how the show has all of these bad elements, but yet I still finished the show nonetheless, and I soldiered through the 700 plus episodes to get to the end, and I thought it was interesting, which is why I wanted to make a video about it at the time. However, more of my points in that video come off as negative. I don't give the show enough praise. And it sounds, honestly, like because the video is titled Naruto is terrible, so it sounds like, even just the way that I speak, it sounds like I hate Naruto completely, like I just don't like the show, but that was not the case at all. In fact, I really do like Naruto, and part of the thing that I was trying to discuss in that video was that I don't really know how to talk critically about a show like Naruto, and the same would go for something like Dragon Ball, where I have such mixed feelings towards it. Where I like a lot of it, but because there's so much material, I also dislike a lot of it. And in that video, I talk about a couple of points, but because I don't flesh them out in detail, it's just, here's a point, here's a point, here's a point, here's a little bit of detail, here's another point. Naruto's terrible. End video. It also doesn't help that the way that I don't back those claims up almost serves as misinformation, because in the video I talked about, for example, talking about Madara and Hashirama and how all the reanimated characters play such a pivotal role at the end of the story. But in the way that I deliver it in the video, it sounds like, oh, well, the past should have no application on the present. Like, you know, those mistakes people made in the past shouldn't apply to what's going on now, which wasn't what I was trying to say at all. I was trying to say how there was originally a reference to wrestling in that video, in the script, that I decided to cut out. I was going to talk about how, you know, the WWE brings in all of these guys, these old veterans, these legends, to really sell their shows and try to bring in the casual viewer. But by doing that, they take away big opportunities from, you know, their modern superstars who are going to be their future. In the case of Naruto, that compares to guys like Madara and Hashirama, all these reanimated characters coming in and really taking the center stage, really being the central focus. Maybe not the central focus of the story, but they were definitely at the top. They really were at the main focus. Like, there's a whole battle between Madara and Hashirama where guys like Shikamaru and Tamari and really everybody is just standing on the sidelines watching, and it rubs me the wrong way, because I get the idea of that you can have these, you can have past mistakes playing a role on the present, because that's what happens. Past mistakes, you know, you learn from them and it shapes who you become. But I guess having a physical, and even having like a physical representation of that, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I guess it was just the way that Madara and Hashirama literally take Like, they are the story for a point. Especially the fact that Madara is a dead character, and he, like, brings himself back to life with this jutsu, and he is, like, the main villain of the story. I don't know, I thought that was just kind of weird. But then it gets even worse when Zetsu and Kaguya and... But I didn't talk about that really in as much detail. So I think a lot of the points that I make about Naruto being quote-unquote terrible, I feel like there's more that I could have said to better support those claims. I feel like there's more claims that I could have made that would have been more accurate than some of the stuff that I said. And I don't think I did enough to praise the show. I talked about how there were characters like, oh, one of the lines I said was how, you know, all these characters I enjoyed were shoved to the background, but at least Kishimoto could make me care about them in the first place. Which was supposed to be my way of giving the show praise, of saying, like, yeah, this show has good characters that just eventually get misused. But it doesn't come off as much as praise, and it just comes off as like, yeah, I mean, he got me to care about them, and he got me to care about them only to take them away. It doesn't do enough to portray my mixed feelings towards Naruto. It comes off as overly negative, and that was not what the goal of this channel was to be. My goal wasn't to be a negative Nancy and talk about all the flaws in a show. I mean, I did that in several videos, and I don't think it's something that I'm not going to do, but for the most part, I'd like to talk about things that I enjoy, unless I feel as though talking about something negative can either answer some questions that people have about me or convey an idea as to how things could get better. Because I don't think that people should ignore the negatives of something entirely, because if you don't criticize the negatives in a show, then more shows like that could keep being made, and the overall quality of the medium is going to decline. So if you at least address those negatives, then you could have a show that could come along and improve on that and could still be popular, but it's, you know, it's not like it's a bad show. Or rather that it's not a bad show, but it's a better show than what came before. And I think that should ultimately be the goal of any show, is to, you know, do better than what came before it. It's okay to like bad anime. The big claim I was trying to make there was the title. The idea was that, you know, just because a critic says that something is not a good show or didn't connect with them, doesn't mean that you need to get all upset, bent out of shape about it. You know, if a critic or if the general consensus says that a show is bad, but you still like a show. For example, there's this big SAO hate train that has been going since whenever. And at this point, people get, like, upset about it because it's like, oh, you're just hating on SAO. I mean, there are people who still like SAO, and I think that's perfectly fine. And in fact, that's what this video was trying to get across, was like, just because somebody says that a show is bad doesn't mean that you can't still enjoy it. But I don't feel as though I supported that argument enough. I went into some other sort of talking about quality of a show, and I don't really feel like the words in that video, because I contradict stuff that I say in that video, or even if I don't directly contradict words that I said, I contradict what those words implied in my How Analysis Will Kill Your Opinions video. Which is, it's interesting, because that video and this one, the It's Okay to Like Bad Anime video, it really shows which was written first, because this one sounds less like me, and I think this is the one where I ultimately sort of... This was probably the most alien script to me, and it's why it's one of my least favorites. Because I think I have a good point that I could make in that video, and I do a poor job at really delivering on it. Like, it's in there, so I don't think the video is completely without merit. I think there are ideas, good ideas, constructive ideas that I could take away from it, but I don't think as though the execution of presenting those ideas was as good as it could have been. For example, I talked about Erased, and I said how, oh, well, I enjoyed it, but it's still a bad show. Without, like, I gave some points as to why I thought it was a bad show, but that was more so, like, why I didn't like it, the points that I gave, like, about how there's no real character development, how the story doesn't really comment on any of the subjects it brings up, other than, you know, the idea of, like, friendship. Friendship is power and that stuff. But yet I still enjoyed the show. and I didn't really give any reasons as to why I enjoyed the show. It was just, it felt more like a hollow argument, like I was taking words from someone else. This video, it does sound something like I was trying to, I guess, sort of interpret Digibro's ideas. I don't remember exactly what he said in his appreciation versus enjoyment video, but I'm sure I watched the video, so I'm sure it's in my mind somewhere, in my subconscious, and that possibly played a role in how I wrote this video. It seems like some of the points I make in that video do sound like me, and some of the other points I make just, it sounds sort of alien to me. Like, I don't understand what exactly I was going for completely, because my video it's a little difficult to interpret, because now that, 3 months have passed since I uploaded it, and if I can't understand everything what I was saying, then that tells me that, well, the writing in it isn't very good, because, like, even if I've forgotten the process of writing that video, I should still be able to go back to a video and realize, okay, well, this is what I was thinking during that time. For example, the Naruto video, I can see what I was trying to say, I just didn't say it as well, but I can at least understand what my stance was. In It's Okay to Like Bad Anime, I don't really have that. There's a bit of a disconnect. So not only do I not entirely remember the process of writing it and where I got my ideas from, but just listening back to it, I myself am confused on what exactly I was trying to say, because I didn't do a very good job at fleshing everything out. That's the thing with these older videos. A lot of them are very short, because I didn't quite, like for the My Hero Academia video, that one was an example of not enough analysis, and I talked too much about, I focused too much on summary. But most of the other videos are really short in that I give points, but don't go into enough detail on them. Like the 4-minute Naruto video probably could, like nowadays, be maybe like with all the points I brought up in it, could maybe be like a 10-15 minute video, but at the time I was still fairly new to writing analysis, so things were kept short. I don't think I maybe focused as much time into the scripts as I could have, as I should have, because like with those first 3 videos, I ended up writing them all. I recorded the audio for them all in one sitting, so I think I might have written the 3 of them over the course of like a week or 2 at most, whereas nowadays, like my Skigakure video, that one took me, I think, it took me like a day or 2 to put together, I guess, in terms of writing the script, but I didn't write that at the same time as I wrote my top 10 anime characters list. I didn't write it at the same time as my SAO abridged video. I mean, I kind of worked on the 3 of them. I was really working on like those 3 in a similar time space, but whereas these videos, like I would write one, okay, what's the next one? Okay, what's the next one? And, really progress through it from there. I don't think each script necessarily got the attention that it deserved. Then we move on to How Fuka Lost Me in One Episode. This is a script, I would say, out of my early work, definitely out of these first like 5 videos, is definitely my favorite. I wouldn't say that there's not room to improve on it, because there's definitely some flaws with it. There's a line in there where I say, well, I'm a hardcore completionist, and I talk about how I made it through 10 agonizing episodes of K-Project, without really talking about, well, why didn't I like K-Project? Hardcore completionist, and then I talk about how I dropped Keijo after barely a minute without really giving the show a chance. Well, right there, I've already contradicted myself. Hardcore completionist. So I could have just said, well, I generally try to complete shows. I could have said that. But no, I had to go full-blown hyperbole. I'm a hardcore completionist, which would give the impression that, oh, like, this guy has never dropped a show in his life, but he dropped Fuka. Even then, like, saying hardcore completionist, but you still dropped a show, it's a bit questionable. I mean, even with the hyperbole for effect, it's still kind of but for the most part, this Fuka video, I talked about parts of the first episode that I didn't like. I didn't make any broad claims like the show is terrible, this first episode is terrible, which I'm glad. It's a type of foresight that I didn't have at the time, but it's how I would write a video like that now, because the show could get better. The whole point of that particular video was to show, I didn't understand myself why I dropped Fuka as quickly as I did. because I usually can make it through at least the first episode of a show. I have dropped shows after like 2 or 3 episodes, but at the time, those are shows since then. Like Blue Exorcist, I gave a shot, but no, it just wasn't for me. But that was after Fuka. Before Fuka, I didn't really have, like, I mostly did try to complete shows before then. But now it's like, since I've started making videos, I'm more open to, I guess, dropping shows. It just seems like it's just a mentality that has happened. I don't know if it's because I started making videos or if it just happened to... It could be because I'm more into the analysis community that I am finding shows that I wouldn't otherwise watch. Like right now, this season, I'm watching World End, or what is it? What the heck is the title? It's the one with all the questions. Are you busy? Will you save us? Or no, what are you doing at the end of the world? Are you busy? Will you save us? And it's kind of like an show for me. Like I've watched 3 episodes. I might continue it. I might just kind of leave it there. I'm not too interested in it. But that's a show that I probably, like if I wasn't watching videos from people in this community or, you know, interacting with other people on now, I guess, our anime and other places like that, it's probably not a show that I would have watched. I might have found it at one point and just kind of not watched it. But now that I'm getting more into anime and trying to broaden my tastes, because before I was a big shonen junkie, I would just watch a lot of action shows or something like Death Note, which is not an action show, but the way everything's directed and everything still has that power, and it's the big plot-heavy thing, so it's like, suspense! And it's like action. It gets you pumped up like an action show, but it's not about fighting and stuff. But I'm starting to change that, starting to get more into like slice of life and the more subdued stuff. I haven't really watched a show with a predominantly female cast, except for like Shirobako. So I'm trying to broaden my tastes. It's not like I wasn't open to that kind of stuff before, but I guess because I was new to anime, so I was a normie. I was an American normie, but now I'm starting to kind of break down those barriers and step outside my comfort zone a bit more. For example, when I watched Anohana at the time, that was a show outside of my comfort zone. Your Lie in April was at one point outside of my comfort zone. So it's all just about slowly breaking down those barriers, getting into genres. Like at first I wasn't really into anime romance, but I'm slowly getting there. It's just about, you know, stepping outside, getting into new genres, broadening my horizons. So that way, that's the thing, like I'm trying to overcome my general perceptions before going into shows, because that way, because like if I didn't watch a show, what's a show that I wouldn't have watched before? A show like Baby Steps, for example. It's an anime about tennis. I haven't played tennis. I know nothing about tennis. I wasn't really into sports anime, so that's a show that I wouldn't have watched before. But Baby Steps has one of my favorite characters. Honestly, Baby Steps is one of my favorite anime currently. And I wouldn't have watched that before because it was a sports show. So now that opens me up to the whole sports genre, stuff like Haikyuu and, well, even Yuri on Ice, I guess technically came before Baby Steps. Yuri on Ice was outside of my comfort zone because it was about figure skating, and I know nothing about figure skating, but it was a show I was glad to watch because it had a really good romance in it. I was a fan of Yuri on Ice, but I guess I'm getting a bit off topic. Back to Fuka. Some of the points I could have gone into a bit more analysis on. Some people said, like, oh, you didn't even finish the first episode. I don't really think that I needed to finish the first episode. It would have just made the video longer, because I think the first half gave me enough to talk about. Like, I was able to fill 5 minutes, and I could have filled more than 5 minutes just about that first half of the episode. Like, I could have gone into more depth with it, but again, that was sort of the inexperience as a writer showing through. I do think it's one of my favorite videos I've made so far. And that's not to say that it's without flaws or that I think it's one of the best videos I made, but definitely in that early part, that early first, like, the first month or so that I was doing this, I do think that the Fuka video was probably my best project because it followed a consistent theme, how it lost me in one episode. So it was more like conveying my experiences with why I dropped Fuka. To me, that writing that video was to answer the question, why did I drop Fuka? Why didn't I like it? Because when I first watched it, I just, like, I didn't like it, but I didn't know why I didn't like it. It just sort of happened. So writing the video and analyzing the show, it was a fun experience because it helped me answer that question, and it kind of opened up this idea of, well, if I have something like that in the future, where if a show, for example, it paved the way for my Gurren Lagann first episode analysis, because I've always liked Gurren Lagann's first episode, but I didn't really, it never clicked with me why. I never stopped to ask myself why I enjoyed it. And the Fuka video really helped open up possibilities like that. I could go into more detail on the specific claims that were wrong, or not even wrong, because I don't think they were wrong, but it's just I could have fleshed them out better, or certain way that things were phrased. There was a claim at the end where I talked about the fan service, and I said, oh, the staff is just, the staff knows their product sucks, so they're trying to bait me with pointless pandering. And that's one statement that I would like to retract from that video, or not even take it out completely, but just reword it, because that suggests that oh, they think this show sucks, which wasn't supposed to be the idea. It was supposed to be why I didn't like the show. But then I go and make a broader claim, oh, this is why this sucks, which wasn't the intention, because that statement was supposed to be more of a broad, or that statement was more of a broad claim in a video that was supposed to be very specific. This video all of a sudden just started blowing up recently. A week or two ago, it was less than 10,000 views, and all of a sudden now it's up over 50,000. So I don't know where those came from. I tried to look around to see if somebody posted it somewhere, but I didn't see that. Was Fuka just a popular show and I just didn't realize it? It just took a while for it to hit YouTube's systems for everybody to find it. I don't know. I'm a bit iffy on the fact that a video that I wrote in February, one of my earliest projects, is suddenly gaining a lot of extra traffic. It's not that, I'm not going to knock the traffic, because they say any publicity is good publicity. But because that video is so negative, I feel like it paints a different image of me than what the majority of my content does. Really, the early work on my channel, I don't think really reflects even what I'm trying to portray with this channel. It was just sort of, I'm not going to take them down because it was my way to gain experience as a writer. And I think calling attention to these flaws is, calling attention to these flaws and leaving them up there is a way for people to look back on it and say, well, okay, so, down the road, if I get better as a writer, when I get better as a writer, people can look back on this older stuff and see, well, okay, these are the kind of mistakes that he made. So if somebody else would try to start writing and they see, they can learn from my mistakes, which is also kind of why I'm making this video. The Guilty Pleasures video. This one's weird because it's it's okay to like bad anime in that it makes points with not enough analysis. I mean, the video's barely 3 minutes long, so people might wonder why I don't make little short blurbs like that anymore. The last video I made that was under 5 minutes was well, technically that's not true, because I made the Attack on Titan and My Hero Academia video, which I'll get back to that one later on. But most of my projects now are, over 5 minutes. Most of them now seem like they're getting to be over 10 minutes. But the thing with these older videos is I didn't, I always struggle with beginning a video, but mostly with ending a video. And I think, well, really just in terms of writing analysis, I struggled with almost every aspect starting off, because you see My Hero Academia is mostly just recap. Then you have videos where I only state points, don't give enough analysis. Guilty Pleasures was another thing like that, where I make a lot of claims. I did give a bit of analysis, but I don't think I gave enough. It's not like I think the idea I tried to express in it is wrong, or that I disagree with it, just like the bad anime video, where the idea of I don't think the term guilty pleasure should exist, or rather that not shouldn't exist, but I don't think people should use it the way that they do. I still agree with what I was trying to say in that video, but again, it's the execution that sort of falls flat. I know I reference Urban Dictionary in that video, which my idea behind that was, well, Urban Dictionary is kind of the way that most, like, the common people would use the term, I guess. Because that seems to be... There are a lot of modern, like, lingo that I don't understand that people use. Like, people make meme references, or they talk about, like, right now, people talk about getting, like, red-pilled and stuff, just for example, or blue-pilled. And I don't know what that means. I don't know what people are talking about. And it seems like Urban Dictionary is kind of the place to go in terms of, like, what does that mean? Because you can go to, like, an actual dictionary or a dictionary website and get the proper definition. So, like, when people use, like, swag, and so if you look up swagger in a dictionary, you're going to get one definition, whereas when people mean swag in modern times, it's a slightly different connotation. And there are other words like that. So when I used Urban Dictionary for the definition of guilty pleasure, that was the whole idea behind that, was that it would apply to a more modern usage, I suppose. I've had some interesting discussions with people in the comments of that video. And in a way, that has sort of also changed the way that I would use guilty pleasure, the way I would apply the term. Because before, like in that video, I say, well, people just shouldn't use guilty pleasure. Like, they shouldn't use the term at all. But somebody in the comments of that video gave an interesting point, talking about how, like, a guilty pleasure should be something that you don't really... It's not something that you talk about, but it's something that you can have. And I think that was sort of interesting. Because the way people use guilty pleasure now, it's sort of like, well, it's something that you shouldn't like, but you like anyway, or it's something that the popular consensus deems as not good, but you still like it anyway, that sort of general thing. And the whole point I was trying to make in the video was that you should embrace what you enjoy. So my example was Mysterious Girlfriend X, and how, you know, they communicate via drool, and, you know, they're exchanging drool throughout the show, and there's weird imagery with, you know, like nosebleeds and fan service and that sort of stuff. But I still like the show anyway, despite its unique presentation, despite its quirks. It was a show that at the time when I watched it, sharing it, like saying, hey, I like this show, would have made me feel, I would have felt uncomfortable, I guess, sharing it. But the question that I sort of ask myself in this video is, well, why should I feel that way? Because if it's something that I enjoy, I shouldn't feel guilty about liking something. I don't think that the claims I make in the video were as specific as they could have been, because then when you try to apply the term guilty pleasure to other things, like it's, oh, so then people can do this and not feel guilt about it. And that wasn't entirely what I was trying to say, but the connotations of my claims in that video do sort of give that idea. Ultimately, it's a 3-minute video. There's only so much that I can say. What kind of depth would you expect out of a 3-minute video? And I really do feel like that's a big shortcoming of it. I think my idea at the time was I couldn't think of anything else to add to it. So instead of just not posting it or postponing it for a later date where I could maybe have more ideas for it, I just decided, well, let's just throw it up there, because I can't think of anything to add to it right now, and I spent the time writing it, so I might as well work on it. And because I didn't want to, like, when I first started out, I didn't like the idea of writing something and then not posting it, because I felt as though that was wasting my time. And as well as that, if there was something wrong with what I was writing, even if I couldn't find a solution then, by posting it, I could look back on it like I am now and find the flaws in it and learn to improve upon them in the future. So in a sense, it did sort of accomplish what it was supposed to. That doesn't mean it's a good video. That doesn't mean that everything that I say in that video is correct or even is even good to what am I saying? I don't know. Let's just move on to a different video. I thought about skipping over this one when I was first planning out this video, but no, why would I do that? Because that's just going to draw more attention to it if I don't talk about it. So the Be Like Digibro video. If you can't already tell, I have mixed feelings towards this video. Again, it's one of those things where I don't regret making it, because at the time that I made it, it was my most popular video. There was a point where actually right now, I think its view total is already higher. There was a point where it was trading back and forth between my WrestleMania video on my wrestling channel which I spent like a month working on, and then this Digibro video, which I wrote in like a day, and then the process of editing it took like another day. So I made it over the course of like 2 or maybe 3 days, whereas I took a whole month. Yeah, so right now it is higher than my WrestleMania video. Again, for a while, WrestleMania had surpassed it, but thanks to the SAO video and other things, it has retaken its position. So that's a little disheartening to see that a video that I worked a month on got surpassed by a drama video that I made in like 2 days. But the Be Like Digibro video, I think I make some good points. I really do feel like this script was sort of a turning point in my writing style, because I had taken like a bit of a break to finish up that WrestleMania video I just mentioned. And then I came back to writing the analysis videos after I had taken a brief break. And I feel like that break did sort of help me look back on my old work and find flaws in it and figure out how to improve on them. The Be Like Digibro video, I don't, like looking back on it, I don't think it's something that I needed to make. That's not to say that I would delete it. Again, it's the whole idea of, well, if I delete it, then it almost feels like I'm trying to hide something if I just go ahead and delete it. And there were ideas that I expressed in that video that I think did have merit, although I sort of missed the point. The idea wasn't really to be like Digibro. The whole reason, and I expressed it in the video proper, that the title was really the response to Gigic's "Don't Be Like Digibro." So my idea was, well, okay, because I didn't entirely agree with Gigic's opinion, like not everything that he said, although I do think the overall message that Gigic makes in his video I agree with. You know, the idea of don't be like Digibro, don't be like me, you know, be you, be yourself. I did agree with that, and I didn't disagree with it in the video. But I guess I picked apart some of his other points that I didn't quite agree with. And I guess I like the video in that I showed that I could articulate my points properly, despite the fact that it was sort of like a drama thing. Obviously, I guess the whole idea of clickbait, it bringing in views, it worked in that regard at a time when, like, for a while, that was my big video. That was the video that people knew me for, which I wasn't too happy with that, but getting traffic, just getting noticed was a good thing. But I don't think it's a video that I needed to make. I did express, so, I mean, you can just look at the like-dislike ratio bar. That could be a thing of people just disagreeing with me, but the fact that the dislike bar on that video is so high tells me that there's a lot of room for improvement. I don't necessarily disagree with the claims that I made in that video. I don't know, that one was, it's more difficult to talk about that one because it's not about anime or anything. That was really, I guess, a discussion of, like, ideas, a discussion of, like, a philosophy towards creating content. Is it a video that I would make now? Absolutely not. I don't think, like I said, I don't think it was necessary. I don't think it was a video that I needed to make. I guess I'm glad that I made it in that despite the fact that it was like a whole drama discussion, I stayed level-headed. I didn't try to attack anybody. I didn't get, like, let my emotions get involved, or, like, you know, I guess the process of writing the script, ultimately my opinions would shine through, but, like, I didn't deliver it in a way that was, like, meant to attack anybody. The title of Be Like Digibro was, I guess you could have mixed opinions on whether or not it actually applies. The idea was that you should be like Digibro in that you can critique the content that you enjoy, or you can critique the content that you watch regardless of who it is. If, like, just because someone, so, like, if I went back to, I don't know, like another wrestling channel and I watched one of their videos and I thought that there was something to improve on there, that I shouldn't shy away from telling them, hey, you can improve in this regard, you know, you can fix that, or what I think you should do better. Yeah, to support the stuff that you appreciate and to criticize what you don't. In that video, I talked about how Digibro, like, his approach to conveying all that information I didn't agree with. I don't think the idea, like, I guess that's, in a way, that's kind of what I was trying to show, was that I took the time to, like, articulate my points, and I wrote out a script and delivered it all. Not like I'm saying that I'm better than Digibro for doing that, because that's not what the video was meant to imply at all, but I guess it was a way to show how I think, like, how I would go about dealing with that kind of drama, or an argument, sort of like that, and how I thought other people should, like, not let their emotions get the better of them. I don't know. The Be Like Digibro video, it's not one of my favorites. For the time that it was my most popular video, it was a mixed feeling, because on one hand, I liked getting the attention and, you know, new people finding my channel through that, because I know that plenty of people did find my channel through that video, because not everything, like, the fact that it was a drama video, I guess, wasn't the best thing, but the fact that I was able to articulate my points and approach the subject without letting emotion sort of dictate completely my delivery and how I went about making that video, I guess, was enough to appeal to some people. I do think the dislike bar, though, is a pretty clear indicator that I could have done things better with it. Because, you know, even if it's just people disagreeing with me, I think the fact that that many people disagree with what I had to say shows that, you know, there's a way that I could have done it better. I could have said it better, or delivered it better. Even if the ideas just necessarily were wrong, well, then maybe there's a way that I can try to change my ideas, or the way in which I present them, to make them more correct, I suppose. I'm glad now that it has been surpassed by other projects that I think are more about me. Definitely, I think for that early part, like before the Be Like Digibro video, I don't think the videos expressed enough of me. Like the My Hero Academia video, I felt was pretty me. The problem with it was that a lot of it was recap, a lot of it was just reviewing the show. So just because there was a little bit of me shining through it doesn't mean that it was a great video. It might have, like, the idea that I thought it was badass. Really, like, I talked about how I broke a finger and how Izuku broke his finger. That was, like, it. That was all I really said about that. Everything else predominantly doesn't seem quite like the me that I wanted to portray. So that's why some of those older videos are really down on the totem pole. They're not some of my favorites. The adaptation problem is interesting in that it was written well before the Be Like Digibro video. I wrote it, I think, the end of February, I wrote the adaptation problem. So I'd have to say, in terms of, like, my early scripts, this was probably one of the better ones, maybe even better than the Fuka video. The problem with it is that while it was my attempt to be more informative, and, well, again, really the idea of the adaptation problem was to express my intrigue in the idea that, you know, there are so many different ways that shows can adapt different materials. I think in that specific instance, I was talking more about manga, but with the adaptation problem, I liked part of what I was trying to do, and there were other parts where I didn't really go the whole way with it. Because I was trying to be a bit more informative in my presentation for that video. That was, I think, the first video that I really strove to do any semblance of research for, because I brought up, I mean, it was a Wikipedia page, so there was only so much research to be had there, but, you know, I brought up the whole display, talking about how Bones was doing their different sequels, and talking about, like, Mob Psycho, well, not Mob Psycho, but, like, My Hero Academia, Bungo Stray Dogs, Noragami, Kekai Sensen, and just kind of drawing all the similar parallels there. And it happened to come about at a time when it's interesting how that script came about, because I was at a point the day that I wrote it where, like, I was trying to work on my WrestleMania video, and I was feeling kind of exhausted from doing that, just the mind-numbingness of the editing. And I wasn't really in the greatest mood, so I thought, okay, well, I'll just watch some anime to just relax. And I watched a couple episodes of Noragami, and then, oddly enough, that just sort of clicked. Somehow the idea just stemmed from there, just watching the show. Which is definitely what I like about this channel now, is I feel as though, not like I watch anime specifically to write now, but I feel like if my brain isn't working and I just need to sit back and watch a show, like, I still feel like it could potentially contribute to a new project. I'm a bit of a workaholic in that regard, is that most of what I try to do, I try to revolve around videos, except in the case of anime, which I do watch more as a hobby. I'm just glad that I can make videos about it because I do have a lot to say. So it's not, even watching anime now isn't completely disconnected from doing work. But like video games, I have a whole gaming channel, but I don't play many video games because I don't make videos about them, so I only really play the games that I make videos about. In the case of anime, I don't know how I got to that topic. Anyway, after this video is over, near the end of this video, I want to talk a little bit more about the future of this channel and my other content, so stick around for that. But I'll save that for the end, so I'm not bogging you down if you're not interested in that. The adaptation problem, I did like it. The fact that it was written well before this whole... Because this sort of gave me, I guess, sort of a gap period between Be Like Digibro and the next anime video, which was supposed to be Kurapika versus Sasuke, the thematic breakdown, and that video was interesting how it came about. But the adaptation problem helped me sort of fill that gap. Really between the top 5 AMVs video, how it misses its own point, that discussion, between that and how analysis will kill your opinions, there was a solid break there between me writing scripts, which I think was a very good thing because it helped me realize some of the problems with my previous writing style. Some of it sort of still came through with the adaptation problem, but I think it would have to be... I think I like this one even more than Fuka, because it wasn't talking about really quality of anything. It was just discussing an idea, my interest in the process of adapting shows. I did make a claim in there, like, oh, well, depending on who you ask, the endings of those shows, and I talked about, like, Erased, Full Metal Alchemist 2003, and Kekkai Sensen, and I was like, well, they were either good, bad, or they were either okay, bad, or complete garbage. And, I don't know if I really had the authority to make that claim. I could have talked about just how I felt about the endings, or I could have just not talked about it entirely. I think the idea with that statement was to show the contrast of, you know, the negative side of taking an anime original ending, which there definitely are negatives to that, depending on the show, although I don't think I really gave... I don't know how I feel about those sort of throwaway statements where it's like, yeah, depending on who you ask, those endings might have been terrible, but then not really providing any justification to it. Because I think about it, and I can't really think of how to remove it from the script, but at the same time, I wonder, did it even need to be included? Well, like, I can see why I included it, but I feel like it should be reworded, but at the moment, I can't think of how I should have reworded it. So I don't know really how to say about it. That doesn't mean that it's good if I can't think of a way to change it, but ultimately I think the adaptation problem was a pretty solid video. I think it could have been better still, but I wouldn't say it's as bad as something like It's Okay to Like Bad Anime, where it's making a lot of points, or points that I contradict. The adaptation problem is pretty consistent with its idea, with its theme, and it sort of carries the idea all throughout the video, and I think there's some good information there to support it. I think it has some decent analysis in it. Maybe not one of my best videos, but I do like it. It is a video that I think still holds a little bit of water in the months or so that have passed. How analysis videos will kill your opinions is another interesting idea. Originally, the next video was supposed to be Kurapika versus Sasuke, the thematic breakdown, but I ended up writing this video in the time that I was editing that one. And because of how I recorded audio at the time, because I didn't want to record audio in my dorm, so I would record it every Sunday when I had a radio show. I would usually have like a bunch of scripts written if I could, and then I would just record all the audio for it in one sitting, and then those would be my projects to edit over the next week or so until I could write more. How analysis videos will kill your opinions happen to be just shorter, so I finished it up while I was working on the Kurapika Sasuke video. And it was interesting how this one came about, because I just happened to find Crafts Dwarf's channel. I think I first found him because the Pedantic Romantic shared his, God, how do you pronounce that anime? I gotta open up the tab so I can give it my best shot. Chihaya Furu. That's the best I've got. That is a tricky title. I don't know how I don't remember how he pronounced it, but yeah, I found him through that video first, and then I went back to watch his Your Lie in April video. And I thought it was interesting because I really liked Your Lie in April, and I talked about it in the Fuka video, how the comparison between Your Lie in April and Fuka, well, how comparing Fuka to Your Lie in April piqued my interest in the show. But after watching Craftsdwarf's video where he talked about the shortcomings of Your Lie in April, it was interesting, not because his opinion was just like, oh, well, I am wrong for thinking that Your Lie in April was good. But the points that he made sense to me because I could remember watching the show and thinking of those points. Like, there were certain things that I didn't like about Your Lie in April, and he kind of touched on those, but he also talked about how, specifically, I think, the way in which violence is portrayed in the show. How it's a big part of Kosei's backstory, but then here he is getting beaten up by all these girls all the time, when that's like a traumatic thing for him, or it should be, but he just sort of takes it. And he expanded more on that idea in his comparison to Sangatsu no Lion, which is another good video I highly recommend. Check out the dude's channel, he's got good stuff. He also made a video about Hunter x Hunter, and you know how much I love Hunter x Hunter, so of course I gotta endorse that. But that video in particular, it gave me this idea, because in that way, his video killed my opinion about Your Lie in April. And I've thought of making several sort of... It's interesting how this one video in particular, how analysis videos will kill your opinions, has affected some of my other projects that I was going to work on. I had the idea of potentially making a response to this video, talking about how analysis videos will save your opinions, but my inspiration for that idea kind of fell through, so it's on the back burner right now. But in this video, the idea was to talk about how analysis videos don't brainwash people, but how they expose flaws of a show that perhaps people might not have seen, they might have just overlooked. And how I didn't think that people should... There are some people out there who have really negative opinions on, maybe not just analysis, but the way in which people on the internet go about doing it, and they look at it pretty negatively. This video was supposed to sort of counteract those thoughts. Like, I don't think people really should be as hostile towards analysis videos as some of them can be, but that's just sort of my opinion. I think that this video was pretty well put together, but again, the fact that it's only just a little 4.5-minute blurb, perhaps there could have been more detail I could have gone into. Honestly though, I think in terms of the shorter videos, this is probably one of the more, because it's concise rather than not having enough detail. I think as though this video, as far as short form pieces go, it's one of the better ones that I've written. It expresses the ideas, it gives some examples, it has some decent analysis. Maybe not, again, maybe it's not the best way that I could have expressed the idea. I probably could have given some other maybe examples or added in another point or two just to help flesh things out. But as far as the shorter videos go, I think it does a much better job than something like It's Okay to Like Bad Anime, which I almost sort of contradict. Like, certain ideas that I implied with that video are sort of contradicted here. I can't remember exactly what, but just because sometimes the videos aren't as fresh in my mind, and even like I just went back and watched some of these older videos, but even then I can't quite, my memory isn't perfect. But the way, it's interesting because the way in which people interpret some of my videos gives me a different perspective on my own writing. So some of the ideas that, like, some of the implications of what I say, I might not be able to find myself because I only have, you know, I have my own perspective, and I can't, I'm limited by my own perspective. I can't sometimes see what other people think. But because other people have different ways of thinking, they can take something differently from how I express things. So I might have taken my thoughts one way, they take it a different way, but I can understand how they came to that conclusion based on what I say. So I feel as though this video, How Analysis Videos Will Kill Your Opinions, it contradicts sort of how other people took my information in It's Okay to Like Bad Anime. And I think that that makes that video inherently lesser in quality, because if somebody can misinterpret my information, or maybe not even misinterpret it, but I can't express my points clearly enough that people can understand like exactly what I'm trying to say, then I do feel as though the video suffers from that. It shows that the ideas that I'm expressing in that video aren't clear enough. And the Be Like Digibro video, I think, suffers from this as well. If enough people can interpret my information in a different way than what I had intended, and in a way that seems like a bit more of an extreme interpretation of what I'm trying to say, then I feel as though that is somewhat my fault for not expressing my ideas to an appropriate extent as I could. I do think that people can take things too far, or like sort of blow things out of proportion, but to an extent, I do feel like that does fall back on me in how I express those ideas in the first place. However, I feel as though the How Analysis videos will kill your opinions. Another thing that it sort of shaped is I had a potential video to make that I still have the audio recorded for. It's just been sitting on my computer ever since like April when I made it. I was going to make a comparison video between Your Lie in April and Fuka's first episode, because Crafts Dwarf's video sort of changed my opinion on Your Lie in April, or at least made me question my appreciation for it, which was really important to the Fuka video, where I talked about how, well, the Your Lie in April comparison, it piqued my interest in Fuka, but then I went to say how, well, that was wrong. Like, Fuka wasn't as good as Your Lie in April. But now I'm thinking, well, was Your Lie in April as good as I remember it? So I actually went back and watched the first episode of Your Lie in April, and I wrote a script about it, but I'm not entirely confident. Like, I haven't released that video yet, and I'm not entirely sure if I will. Maybe I'll have to go in and touch it up, or I might just end up releasing it through Patreon and put it in the vault. That's what I call it. The place where videos, I don't know which it should go into, because it's an unreleased thing, but I still need to kind of work out the kinks with Patreon, how I would want to divide something up like that. It's a video that I didn't release. I don't know if I should just give the script. Well, like, I can't really just give the script because it has visual elements to it, so I'd have to actually make the video. But if I make the video, I'd want to upload it, but I'm not entirely sure. That potential video between Your Lie in April and Fuka, it's a little, I'm a bit shaky on it, so I might end up just going back to try to rewrite it. I might not release it, and I might just put it in, I might just put it in the drive and my patrons can see it. I don't know. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with that yet, but it is interesting how, you know, my opinions will change over the course of time, so perhaps I could one day make a specific response to a video, like, for example, how I might make a video about how analysis videos can save your opinions. That would be a direct follow-up to this video, and I could express how my opinions might have changed since then. But I do think it's interesting how each video is sort of a time capsule of the time in which it was written. Got a little bit off track there, but we'll move on now to the Kurapika versus Sasuke Uchiha, a thematic breakdown video. This one was originally supposed to be this originally stemmed from my top 10 anime characters video, because Kurapika was going to be near the bottom of the list. He was going to be like number 10 or number 9 or something when I was originally drafting it out. Because I started working on the top 10 anime characters list, I think, I want to say as early as February, but because I can't remember that far back, like working on it that far back, I'm just going to say like mid-March was definitely when I started working on it. And originally I had Kurapika in that list. But the problem with it was that I spent a lot of the time talking about, well, a good majority of his section was comparing Kurapika to Sasuke, which doesn't really express why Kurapika is an interesting character in his own right. But eventually I thought of other characters who would outrank Kurapika, so I decided to just cut him from the top 10 list. But because I had already written this comparison piece between him and Sasuke, I thought, well, okay, I'll just expand on that and make a video out of it, and that'll help me buy time for this top 10 characters list, which ended up taking a lot more time than I thought it would. I think this was an interesting video idea that I plan on making into some sort of a series. I have another thematic breakdown video in the works right now that I wrote it back in March, but the top 10 video really took up a lot of my time in preventing me from working on that, as well as some of my other anime projects that I've been working on. But I do plan on making more thematic breakdown videos. I think this video really did a good job at setting up that format. I think the points that I made in it were pretty solid. There isn't really anything in this video that I disliked that I can recall. I thought the analysis was pretty good. Again, it's a lot of the points that I make is just, or a lot of the room for improvement that I have is going to be the case with every video. Like, perhaps there's some extra points that I could have touched on, or maybe I could have went into a bit more depth with a certain specific point, but the Kurapika Sasuke video I think was really good. I think it was a good way to sort of kick off the idea of a thematic breakdown. I got the idea that some people compare Killua and Sasuke more often, which I don't see why. I don't really see the parallels between Killua and Sasuke. I think they're polar opposites, but maybe I could make a thematic breakdown out of that as well. That's the thing. Like, I could really... There were so many possibilities out of this thematic breakdown mini-series, is that I could really compare multiple characters to multiple other characters, so I can make like 5 videos about Sasuke, perhaps, if I can find that many parallels. But I do think that the thematic breakdown is one of my better videos. It's one of my personal favorites, I'd say, on the channel so far. Although a lot of my newer stuff, I think, is only getting better. So I definitely would say that my newer videos are better than my older ones. But Kurapika versus Sasuke, I think it's a pretty solid one. Not really much to complain about with it. There's nothing that I absolutely detest about it like some of my older videos, but yeah, it's pretty solid. Not much else I can really say about it. Attack on Titan and My Hero Academia Season 2. What should you expect? God, I want to delete this video so badly. I might, because it doesn't make a point. I've wanted to make a video about My Hero Academia Season 2 ever since it started airing. And I also thought, well, maybe there's something I could say about Attack on Titan. And I really wanted to make a video about the two shows. So I wanted to come up with some sort of a comparison video. That was how this video came about. The only problem is I don't really make a claim in it. I talked about how the pacing is different, but you could have figured that out by watching the shows. I made, I think, one interesting point that I made in that video was how I talked about Attack on Titan's pacing, how there's always some sort of big threat. There's always some sort of stress, dramatic sort of stakes looming in the background, so its characters never have a chance to breathe. And so the story sort of reflects that by not having a chance to breathe. It's just like battle after battle after battle after battle. But I think that could almost warrant its own video, and I could talk more about Attack on Titan in depth. As for My Hero Academia, I don't really say anything new about it. And again, it's a 3.5 minute video. What exactly can I say in detail there? I honestly think that I will delete this video just because, you know, I talk about not covering my, about covering my mistakes and whatnot. It's different when, like, if I make a video that I think doesn't represent my opinion anymore, that I'll keep up. But like in this video, I don't give an opinion. I talk about how, like, I talk about how the pacing's different, but you could have figured that out on your own. I talked about, I think I might have mentioned which show I'm looking forward to the most, but what does that really matter if I don't have anything to say, anything constructive? I don't even remember if I talked about, like, honestly, everything that I could have said comparing the two shows, I don't really see the point in why I would have said it. Like, I could have talked about the characters. I don't think I talked about the characters, or maybe I did. Fuck. Well, my opinion on this video was a lot more hostile before I recently watched it back. I guess it's okay. I don't really think that there's anything super duper negative about it to delete. Like any ideas that I express in it, I don't agree with or whatever, but there's a bit of recap in there. There is a bit of analysis about it. Maybe I'm just being too harsh on it because it's my own work. Again, it's a 3.5 minute video. There's only so much that can be said. I do feel as though the points expressed in that video are much more concise, and they at least have a bit of depth, unlike something like the Naruto video or It's Okay to Like Bad Anime. Because even the title, What Should You Expect? It doesn't really imply anything. It's just kind of there. It's like, this video's about Attack on Titan and My Hero Academia, two of the most popular anime of the season. Surely that'll bring in the views. And I guess, like, it would have worked if it worked, and I might not have been as... I mean, I still would have been negative towards it because I don't really think it says much. But then it would have at least done its job of being clickbait, I suppose. I mean, not like that improves the quality of the video if it does or doesn't do that. But This video, I'm pretty indifferent towards it, because, like, I just watched it back, and I don't think it's as terrible as I remembered it being, but it doesn't, the claims in it, like, it makes claims, and that's, yeah, that's that video. Why Gurren Lagann's first episode is the best is another one that I really enjoyed, more so than the Fuka video, because this one was a lot more positive, though there are plenty of flaws with it. Like, for example, I talk about Yoko, and well, I don't really talk about Yoko. I talk about her sex appeal, and how she's more than sex appeal. But in the video, I mostly talk about her sex appeal, and that, like, I talk about, oh, she's more than that. She's a character in her own right. I'm glad that I went into detail on what made her such an interesting character. No, I talked about how she's not sex appeal, and that was basically it. That was all I said about Yoko. And there's a point that I could have made where, like, you know, she's the only character in the show who combats gunmen on her own, like without her own gunman, and she just attacks him with her rifle. She does that in the first episode. That's a pretty good indicator as to what her character is. She's a strong, independent woman. I mean, yeah, she's hot, but you know, she can wreck gunmen on her own. She doesn't need a gunman of her own. She can just attack with her rifle. But no, why would I say that? Because that would actually make a point. No, let's not include that. But other than that, like that was probably the most frustrating thing about this video, was that I completely dropped the ball there. A lot of it was, there was a decent bit of summary in it, and I think I did a good job at exploring certain aspects of it. This video gave me some issues when I was writing my Skigakure video. This video was all about analyzing the first episode, so I obviously had to go through what happened in the first episode. Perhaps I spent too much time talking about the events and not enough time analyzing the events. I think that I made some pretty good points in there. Perhaps the video was a bit longer than it needed to be, or I could have, well, even then, like, you know, maybe cut out some of the summary and talk about how Yoko's actually an interesting character and not just a pair of boobs, which is, I tried to, that's interesting. I have a way of trying to make points and contradicting those points in the way that I deliver them. The SAO Abridged video does a pretty good job of that. But here, you know, like talking about Yoko, how she's more than sex appeal, and only talking about how she's more than sex appeal rather than talking about something other than sex appeal. Obviously, as you can tell, that is the part that I'm most frustrated about with this video. But I think for the most part, it's a good video. I think the analysis in it is pretty good. It's just that perhaps there wasn't enough of it, or perhaps a little too much recap. But otherwise, I think it was a pretty good video. I like Gurren Lagann, I like the first episode, it's the best, and I think the video does a good job at explaining why, even if it could have done better. Why you should watch Mystere Fusion and Dragon Ball Dissection. This one was weird because I tried to format it in two different ways, and they didn't, like, one of them ultimately fell flat. The whole why you should watch thing was, it's an obvious sort of homage to Super Eye Patch Wolf. And I even went through at the beginning of the video going like, I even tried to like replicate how he does his intros, like, and this is why you should watch Mystere Fusion. That was even less like his delivery than it was in the video, but that ultimately fell through. I really only did that one line. Like that one sentence was basically the homage to Super Eye Patch Wolf and nothing else. So if anything, it's more like I plagiarized his format, at least for that like one sentence, rather than actually, you know, going the whole way with it. I could have been a big aesthetic choice, but instead I kind of like half-heartedly committed to it, which is a bit sad. I should have just cut it out completely and just gone with the other inspiration, which was to make the video like a Mystere Fusion video. I did the intro with it, with the different graphics and the music and stuff, and I was happy with that. I thought it was cool. This was obviously before I started including music in my videos, so it was... I'm not sure whether this video actually is going to have music or not in the background, because it's more of a vlog. Probably won't. This video, I did like it. It was, again, generally pretty positive. Wanted to get people to check out his channel. But I do think I did talk a little bit about like the negatives. Like I mentioned how his editing perhaps isn't as complex as it could be. But I don't think that anything about this was really necessarily bad. I think that, you know, my discussion of his channel was pretty good. I think I did a good job I think I did a good job at analyzing his work. Yeah, not much really that I can say about this one. Why Boruto is the perfect protagonist. For Naruto, at least. Another video that I really like. I'm very proud with how this one came out. It's interesting how really my two most popular videos currently have worked out. There's this video, which was originally a YouTube comment on one of Swag Kage's videos. So it almost wasn't a video, but I'm glad that I turned it into a video because it's now my second most popular video on the channel. It's a little more of an interesting story than the SAO Abridged video, which is just as simple as, well, I thought about not even making it because it's about an internet parody. Who's gonna watch a video analyzing an internet parody? Clearly a lot of people are gonna watch a video analyzing an internet parody, but I digress. This Boruto video, I guess, wasn't as perfect as the title suggests, because there really were sort of two different claims that I made in it, and I don't think that I connected them as well as I could have, because there were two different parts of a comment responding to two different things, and you can really tell that it was adapted from a YouTube comment because the transition between why Boruto is the perfect protagonist and why the tone shift is okay, it wasn't a very smooth transition. I believe my exact statement was, while I'm here, I might as well talk about this other topic that I posed in that comment. But I think the video as a whole is pretty good, that transition notwithstanding. Perhaps that other point that I made could have been a separate video entirely. Maybe there's a little bit more depth I could have gone into with... No, I don't really think there's much else that I could have said about why Boruto is the perfect protagonist. Maybe there's like a small detail that I missed, but in terms of what I was thinking at the time, I added just about anything that I could. I guess putting in the part about the tone shift, it could have been integrated better. I think really me including it the way that I did was more to just sort of pad out the video's runtime, because otherwise it would have been like half its length. No, maybe more like 2/3 of its length, but I don't think that what I said about the tone shift was irrelevant. It's just, it wasn't connected as well. It could have been better. And finally, why SAO Abridged is the best parody ever. The first 3 minutes of this video are terrible. I don't just say this because people have told me that, like, oh, you wasted the first 3 minutes of the video. But no, the points that people make in the comments have been pretty accurate. The idea, like, I did the same thing with Yoko in the Gurren Lagann video, where I talked about how all I talked about was her being more than sex appeal, without actually talking about why she's more than sex appeal. In this video, I talked about how the whole Sword Art Online discussion is kind of like why Sword Art Online gets on my nerves, because it's all over the place. And it seems like it just keeps, like, it won't die. It's the show that won't die, and I just want to move on. But then I spent the first 3 minutes of the video talking about why, like, I spent the first 3 minutes of the video talking about Sword Art Online. Even though I talked, like, I was, like, talking about the show's flaws and stuff. And I don't think that was necessarily, like, all of it had to be cut out. Because some of that was necessary to talk, like, setting up why I thought Sword Art Online was not a good show was part of talking about why SAO Abridged was, the claim in this video, the best parody ever, because it improves on the source material. So obviously I was going to have to talk about the source material in order to make the comparison to really drive home my claim. But when I say that I hate how everyone is talking about Sword Art Online and how it just doesn't go away, and then I proceed to talk about Sword Art Online for several minutes. Like, as an intro, I think it could have worked if I talked about it in, brief detail. If I honestly just cut out that, I don't know how I would go about cutting out the line where I talk about why I've gotten sick of Sword Art Online. That, I guess, could have been a separate video in its own right, but that's even more ironic because, even more contradictory as well, because it's like why I'm tired of people talking about Sword Art Online. Here's a video talking about Sword Art Online. I probably could have just cut that statement out. I probably could have just cut, that 3 minute intro probably could have been maybe a minute, maybe even less than that. because there were certain points in it that were necessary to establish the tone, set things up for the rest of the video, but ultimately the intro was really bad. Cut it down, could have made it more concise, and just jumped into the rest of the video. When I started talking about the parody itself, there were a lot of details that I missed. Part of that was because I was talking about how the show, like, I talked about the climax, the main character, and the antagonist. Those were the 3 main points I touched on. I could have talked about the romance between Kirito and Asuna, because I personally think the abridged does it better. It makes me more interested in it, at least. But that's just my personal opinion, but I could have fleshed that out. I think there were points about the abridged series that I didn't get to touch on, because specifically in this video I was talking about it purely on a conceptual level as to why being better than the source material makes it the best parody ever. A lot of people in the comments of that video were talking about, like, oh, you know, this parody is the best because it's funnier and that sort of stuff. Part of it is I think some people missed the point. The idea was that being better than the source material makes it the best parody ever, rather than, you know, being the funniest parody makes it the best parody ever. And I'm not saying that I'm right in saying that it being better than the source material. I mean, some people might not even think that it's better than the source material. But the idea, like, I'm not saying that you can't disagree with me that being better than the source material is is more valuable than being a funny parody. That could just be the effect of a video going, you know, getting as big as it did, because a video like that is going to stretch outside of the typical analysis sphere, because it's appealing to the SAO abridged fans, or just fans of abridged parodies in general. It is interesting though, because I would like to make a video about other parodies in the future. It's almost, I guess, expected of me now, because this is the video that I'm known for now, the big SAO abridged video. And I think it's still pretty funny, because I made the Sword Art Online is Money video, which was about exploiting Sword Art Online for views. That video didn't get very many views. But then I make a video about SAO abridged and it blows up. So in the end, SAO still is the video, currently the show that started to get traction behind this channel. I just think it's kind of funny how that worked out. Overall, I think the points I make in it are pretty solid beyond the intro, talking about how I think the show is better, how the parody is better written than the show. I don't think it's possible that some people just didn't understand the difference I was trying to make. They might have just seen the title and just jumped to the comments to talk about their favorite parody and how it was better than SAO abridged. But I think perhaps my claims in that video could have been perhaps a bit clearer as to why, on a conceptual level, SAO abridged was the best parody, in that it was better than the source material. But ultimately, I think if a video did have to be my most popular, I think that the SAO abridged video is one of the more deserving videos out of the bunch. Is it my personal favorite? No, I wouldn't say it's my personal favorite, at least. And I'm not talking about, you know, the videos in May. I'm saving for the Patreon, because obviously it's about videos that I made in that month. So I wanted to go all the way up to May. If, you know, I had to pick my favorite of the bunch, I would have to probably go with, actually, that's a tough call. If I had to go with my worst, my least favorite video of the bunch, it would probably have to be Naruto is Terrible, Yet Fascinating. The It's Okay to Like Bad Anime video it's pretty bad, but I don't think it does as much to sound contradictory to my own thoughts as, actually, no. It's Okay to Like It's Okay to Like Bad Anime is the worst, because Naruto is Terrible Yet Fascinating at least expresses my opinions, even if they're poorly expressed and almost sort of contradictory to how I actually feel. It's Okay to Like Bad Anime completely, it doesn't sound enough like me. Like, I feel like I'm trying to impersonate, well, not impersonate people, but I feel like I'm taking words that other people have said, or maybe not words, but like taking ideas that other people have expressed, Digibro being one of them, and I feel like I'm incorrectly trying to mold them into my own opinion. This was almost like a way of me trying to figure out my own writing style, so I kind of took inspiration from someone like a Digibro. in order to... I mean, he's not my only inspiration, but I do think this video comes off as very Digibro-ish. Not to say that, like, this is something he would write, but I don't think it sounds like something that I would write, if that makes sense. Like, I'm trying to make my own video in the vein of other people, rather than trying to make my own video for the sake of me, like, for the sake of making it my own video. I hope that makes some sort of sense. I'm not entirely sure how to express it. That's why this is unscripted and not a fully written video. As for what would be my favorite video, I think it's a toss-up between the thematic breakdown, because I think that's a pretty good one. That's pretty solid. Between that, the SAO bridge video, and I would say Boruto if it wasn't for the second half. I really like the idea, or the concept that I posed in that video. Yeah, but I think ultimately it might have to be the thematic breakdown. Just because I really like talking about characters. So that's kind of why I guess the Boruto video stands out to me as well. I could easily just say Boruto because it was more popular. Heck, I could say SAO Bridge was my favorite because it got me the most views. But I don't think it's necessarily the best written one. It definitely is the longest, which I think is interesting, because I do have... Okay, not counting the top 10 anime characters list. That's a completely different beast. But I think that about wraps things up here for this this self-analysis. I think we're done. Well, we're not completely done talking about me yet, because I did want to pose an idea here for videos like this in the future, this sort of unscripted stuff. I have been thinking about starting it's a second channel for this channel, but I guess it's technically the third channel because I have a wrestling channel too. And I'm thinking about making a second channel for that channel, which is just about... Okay, so here's the idea. I'm in a very tricky situation right now because both of my channels, for the most part, appeal to different audiences. So I posed the question over there. I'm going to pose the question over here. Would you be interested for content like this more unscripted stuff? So for videos like this one, My Anime Journey, should I make a separate channel and make it sort of like my quote-unquote After Dark channel? Because I know Digibro has his channel where he does more vlog, unscripted stuff on the side on Digibro After Dark. Pedantic Romantic has his Manic Antics where he posts his podcasts, and he was doing vlogs. I don't know if he'll still be doing vlogs in the future. The thing that gave me the idea for this was I saw that Craftsdwarf made a little After Dark channel. And it made me think, it got me thinking, because before I thought, well, like, I'd have to have a camera, then I'd have to vlog my stuff, but he just kind of did it with a static image and just sort of talking over it. So that's more my style, as you can tell in this video and My Anime Journey. And I'd rather not bog this channel down with more unscripted content like this. I'd rather keep this be the scripted, analytical stuff, the more short form projects, because that's what I made this channel to do in the first place. And I guess this is a bit of a consequence of my lack of foresight, not thinking, well, if this channel takes off, well, then where do I go from there? So that's why I know dividing up channels and having a bunch of different channels isn't exactly the ideal situation, but I feel like that'd be better than trying to cram everything into this one channel and distract from the actual analysis projects that I work on. I'm also thinking about doing, like I said, making a fourth channel which was supposed to be the second channel for the wrestling channel, where I could just do more like gaming stuff, and I might be doing like Let's Plays with my friends from high school. So the reason why I pose the question here, and I talk about that as well, is do you think that I should try to just split it like that and just make the 4 channels so that way you can just pick whatever you want? Or should I maybe like combine the idea of a vlogging channel and the gaming stuff, just throw that together to have a third channel? Because I'm trying to think of a way to have, because I do state of the channel updates on my other channel, and I've been making those since the end of 2015. But if I'm going to talk about important topics there, because I usually do those every once in a while to discuss important developments with the channel and where I think things will go in the future, I think they probably do more so apply to the other channel, but in the future I could definitely see certain events coming up that would influence this channel. So I guess the question is, should I try to make a third channel that I can try to intertwine both of those audiences by having like gaming stuff and the unscripted vlogs, just sort of like concept videos like this one? Or should I keep it completely separate, have 4 channels? Or should I just upload the unscripted stuff like this onto this channel as well and just run with that? Like I said, I posed the question over there, and I definitely want to pose it over here because this is the main channel moving forward. The subscription total, I don't know if it's going to have surpassed the other channel by the time this video goes up. I'm not entirely sure when this video is going to go up because I have an actual proper analysis that I want to work on, and I might end up finishing that before I finish this, just given the length of this video. But what do you think? I feel like now I'm just dragging this out. I'm just rambling, but do you think I should have a separate channel for more vlog stuff like this? I know it's not really a vlog because I don't have my face on screen or anything, but I don't know. I just wanted to pose the question here. Now is the time to. I'm going through a big point of change in my life right now because trying to, getting back from college and now really going at this full time, figuring out how I want to structure these channels. Now is probably the most experimental time for just my YouTube career in general for both channels. So I want to try to accommodate you people as much as possible. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments section if you think that a second channel for this would be good. Actually, out of curiosity, how many of you are actually interested in my wrestling content? Just to kind of see what the crossover is between the two audiences. Because I posed the same question over there in my State of the Channel update, but I think it's pretty important for me to try to figure out how much of a different audience each channel has, because if I'm going to do update videos, then I need to figure out who my content is reaching and who I should try to be reaching, I suppose. Which is why I'm thinking, like, if I divide up the channels, then it's going to be easier to reach the people who want to be notified of this stuff. I'm sure people who don't want to have already left the video and not even listening at this point, so I'm just addressing anyone who's still here. What works best for you? I know you could always follow me on Twitter at mathwas97x because any video that I post is going to be linked to that Twitter, so you'll find anything that I upload there. Or maybe you're just interested in strictly the analysis stuff, which is why I kind of want to make a separate channel for the vlogs, because if people are only here for the anime analysis and they'll just skip over this stuff, and apparently, I don't know how long this has been a thing, but with YouTube's algorithms, if a video gets less views than your normal content, then that's going to negatively impact your other videos and how they can be found through YouTube. So, like, if that's actually a negative effect, so like if I posted a video like this and it gets less views and that negatively impacts all my other content, that's a bad thing. So I'd like to just move this style of content to another channel if possible, if that would just make things easier. So let me know down in the comments, what do you think I should do with this whole situation? Moving forward, this is always going to have analysis videos. I'm not going to throw in, I'm not going to try to mix the two main channels I have right now. It's just a matter of figuring out what to do with all of my side content. But anyways, I think we're going to call it a wrap. Call it what? I just mixed phrases. We're going to call it a day. Wrap things up here for this video. Thank you all for watching. Sorry for taking up so much of your time. Or maybe you're glad to have a long video like this. I don't know. Anyways, until next time, keep on YouTubing. I recently launched a Patreon page, and one of the reward tiers is a monthly based fuck.